Hey film fans, welcome to Cine Pro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters, the movie begins in a mountainous area in Norway called the Gull Mountain Peaks. We see a young girl named Nora trying to climb the mountain, encouraged by her father, Tobias, who had already reached the summit and was cheering her on to do the same. Nora successfully climbs the mountain and finally reaches her father. The two of them sit atop the peak, gazing at the Gull Mountain Peaks. During this time, Tobias tells Nora the story behind the mountain's name. He explains that 1,000 years ago, trolls still lived in Norway, but they eventually went extinct and turned into stone, forming mountains that were named the Gull Mountain Peaks. However, Nora doesn't believe her father, dismissing it as fictional stories and unrealistic ideas. Tobias asks her to look at the mountains in front of her and believe that she will see the trolls. She agrees, and when she looks, she is shocked because she feels as though the mountains moved, and something resembling a human face emerged from them. Still, she insists that she doesn't believe it, and that it's all just imaginary. Tobias, however, remains confident and continues to tell her about the trolls, speaking as if he had seen them with his own eyes. But at that time, Nora is too young to grasp what he is saying. 20 years later, we see Nora as an adult, working as a geologist on the Norwegian coast. She's very skilled in paleontology and is renowned throughout Norway. She had chosen to live alone, away from her father, because his behavior had become strange. He had even spent some time in a mental institution, and his actions made her very scared of him. At this point, her site manager, Skord, calls out to her. Skord tells her that they are returning home because their mission has failed. They couldn't find any fossils, and their funds are nearly depleted. However, Nora surprises him by revealing that she's found a fossil buried underground. This means their mission is a success, and they haven't wasted their money. Skord tells her that he trusted her from the beginning because she is the only one capable of succeeding in such a mission due to her exceptional talent. He also tells her that he wishes her father could be by her side at a time like this, but he hopes to take her father's place because her father's mental state is very poor. His behavior is irresponsible, and he poses a threat to his daughter. Since her mother's death, Nora has been afraid of him, which is why she decided to separate from him. Meanwhile, a group of workers is drilling a tunnel through Gull Mountain Peak for a train to pass through. During their work, a group of protesters gathers, demanding that the workers stop drilling to preserve the environment, as they believe the government is destroying it. The workers ignore the protests and continue their work, placing dynamite throughout the mountain to speed up the drilling process. When the dynamite is detonated, an earthquake occurs. The workers think it's just a quake and quickly flee, unaware that they have awakened a legendary creature. Suddenly, an explosion occurs in the mountain, resembling a nuclear blast. Two of the protesters manage to record everything on their phones. The incident reaches the Norwegian government, which quickly sends drones to film the site. The footage reveals markings on the ground resembling giant footprints. However, they dismiss the idea that these are the footprints of a massive creature, attributing them instead to the earthquake. The government sends Andreas, the deputy to the prime minister, to enlist Nora's help in uncovering what happened. When Andreas arrives at Nora's site, he tells her that this is a national matter and could be the discovery of a lifetime if she can prove that a mythical creature caused the incident. Nora agrees to help and accompanies him to the Prime Minister's office. Once there, she feels confused about why she was summoned and what the case is about. She decides to speak with them to understand everything. During a meeting with Norwegian leaders, Military General Lund explains that there was an explosion at Gull Mountain Peak, but they doubt it was caused by an earthquake. They show her the footprints captured by the drones. A geologist claims these are just seismic tremors, like earthquakes. However, Nora senses something is wrong and suggests that the cause might be a mythical creature. She can't specify the type, but believes it must be enormous to leave such footprints. At that moment, Sigrid, one of the Prime Minister's assistants, announces that she found a video recorded by two girls who witnessed the event. She hacked their phone to retrieve the footage. When they play the video, Nora is shocked to hear a strange sound, as if from a wild animal. She asks Sigrid to replay the video, and this time, they catch a glimpse of the creature's form. However, they still can't identify what it is. Everyone is stunned by what they see, as they had only heard of trolls in stories. They trust Nora because her theory turns out to be correct. It was indeed a mythical creature. Still uncertain of the creature's type, they decide to let Nora lead the investigation, with Andreas assisting her. Meanwhile, in a town called Lasha, a married couple is having breakfast when their dog starts barking, seemingly warning them of something. They ignore the dog until they feel an earthquake. They quickly hide in their basement. When they emerge, they find their house destroyed but have no idea what caused it. They call the police for help, But shortly afterward, a group of Norwegian soldiers arrives, led by Commander Chris. The news reaches the Prime Minister, Birgit, who sends Nora and Andreas to Lasha to investigate. When they arrive, Chris greets them and explains that they found footprints, but they are enormous, unlike anything they've seen before. This leaves everyone puzzled, as the footprints disappear a short distance from the house. It's as if the thing that left these traces disappeared all at once. So Nora decides at that moment to examine these footprints to start studying them. When she goes to look at them, she discovers that this creature has no living cells, as if it were made of stone or dust, because no living cells appeared in its traces. However, she still cannot determine its type. At that moment, Nora smells a strange scent, the same scent she smelled when she used to visit the peaks of the mountain troll as a child, but she still can't pinpoint its source. So she decides to visit her father, as he's the only one who might have answers to all these questions. Nora goes to visit her father in the mountains, where he is in a very fragile psychological state. This has made him isolated from people since he left the asylum, refusing to interact with anyone. She takes Andreas and Chris with her. During their journey to the mountains, Nora suspects that the creature responsible for these footprints might be camouflaging to mislead them, but she won't be certain until she talks to her father. When they reach the place where her father lives in the mountains, she tries to speak with him. However, he threatens them with his rifle when he sees Chris's gun. Nora calms them both down and asks her father to talk to her. She begins to tell him what happened. He tells her that it must be a troll, one of the trolls that were widespread in Norway 1,000 years ago. She tells him that all of this is just imagination, and that these are merely fictional stories they were told as children. But her father insists on his position, saying that it is indeed a troll, and he will prove it to her. He gives her a small book with a lot of information about trolls. He tells her that he once discovered that these trolls truly existed. They had tribes and kingdoms, and were very widespread in Norway 1,000 years ago. He tried to inform the government about his findings after 20 years of research, but no one believed him, and they threw him in prison for 2 years because they thought he was crazy. They all set out to continue their search for this creature. On their way, Tobias asks them to land the plane in a certain spot in the mountains. He tells his daughter Nora that the terrain in this area is different from what's shown on the map. She's also surprised because they can't understand what could change the terrain so quickly. Tobias tells her that there are rocks in this area that weren't there before, but now they are. At that moment, Nora smells the strange scent she smelled at the peaks of the mountain troll. Although she is scared, she believes the scent is a sign leading her closer to the truth. Suddenly, they sense strange movement around them. When Nora looks to her left, she sees the rock beside her has an eye. She is startled by what she sees. Suddenly, the rock moves, and she realizes that it is indeed a mountain troll, as Tobias had said, but it is camouflaged as a rock. They quickly run back to the plane to escape before it kills them. They record a video of it to send to Britt. When Britt receives the video, she is shocked to see the troll because, to them, it's a mythical creature they've only ever heard about in stories. At that moment, Britt decides to let the army deal with the troll, as it poses a threat to the entire country. She tells Nora that there's no time to experiment or conduct tests as she wants, and the troll must be eliminated as quickly as possible before it kills anyone. Nora loses hope of dealing with the troll herself, and reluctantly agrees to follow Britt's orders. However, her curiosity drives her to ask Chris to go with her, and he agrees because he has started to develop feelings for Nora. They all head to a city called Heidel to intercept the troll and eliminate it. As soon as the troll appears before them, they fire a lot of bullets at it, but it is unaffected and keeps moving as if nothing happened. They then fire at it using tanks, but again, it is unaffected. At that moment, the troll becomes enraged and starts attacking them. They quickly flee and hide behind a rock to avoid being seen. However, the troll smells the blood of one of them, grabs him, and eats him. They all run away quickly before they too are eaten. Tobias decides to confront the troll and tries to calm it down. Amazingly, he succeeds, and the troll appears to be a kind creature that never intended to harm anyone. It only wanted to defend itself because they were attacking it. Tobias tries to communicate with the troll to understand how it appeared and came back to life after all these years. At that moment, a tank stationed on the side of the road fires at the troll again. The troll turns toward the tank and crushes it underfoot. While turning, it accidentally hits Tobias, knocking him to the ground. After crushing the tank, the troll looks at Tobias with sad eyes, as if apologizing for hitting him, and then continues on its way. Tobias is in critical condition due to the blow and starts to die. He keeps repeating one word, Sendeng, but his daughter doesn't understand what he means. Nora bids her father farewell for the last time, and Tobias dies. After burying him, Nora recalls her memories with him and remembers all the adventures they had in the mountains when she was a child. She remembers his stories about trolls, which were the only thing that helped her cope with her mother's death, and strengthened the bond between her and her father. However, she had to distance herself from him because his mental state was unstable, posing a danger to her. That's why she decided to stay away from him. But deep down, she had always wished to spend the rest of her life with him, learning everything from him because she loved him. At that moment, she remembers the book Tobias had that talked about trolls. She quickly retrieves the book and reads it. She discovers that trolls are disturbed by the sound of bells. This gives her an idea to defeat the troll. She shares her plan with Britt, but Britt rejects it, considering it mere fantasy and doubting they could defeat the troll using bells. After much persuasion, Britt finally agrees. They attach large bells to military aircraft and intercept the troll to defeat it. They circle it with the bells, and indeed, the troll becomes agitated by the sound. However, unfortunately, the troll is standing near a family park, putting many lives at risk. The ogre starts attacking the planes and throwing them away from him. While throwing one of the planes, it falls toward a small child, but he manages to catch it before it lands on him. It becomes clear that the ogre is actually kind-hearted and doesn't want to harm anyone. Otherwise, he would have let the plane fall on the child. He continues attacking the remaining planes and destroys them, except for Nora's plane. Nora returns to the government headquarters and asks Bart to give her another chance. However, Bart refuses, saying that the army will handle this mission. She also tells Nora that their actions could have caused the deaths of a large number of people today, but they managed to evacuate the park before the ogre could harm anyone. She warns Nora that the day could have ended disastrously. Nora decides to return to her regular job and forget about the ogre entirely. Meanwhile, Beira holds a meeting with the leadership in Norway, and Andreas is present. However, they belittle him because his position is lower than theirs. Despite this, he speaks normally during the meeting, but eventually decides to resign from his job. He leaves the headquarters and runs after Nora, telling her he is ready to help her defeat the ogre. Nora agrees, and they get into the car together. While driving, Nora tells him about the word Tobias kept repeating before he died. Andreas tells her it's the name of the royal palace guard. She asks him to take her there quickly to find out why her father kept mentioning the name. When they arrive at the royal palace, the guards refuse to let them in and threaten to shoot if they don't return to their car. Suddenly, an old man appears behind them, recognizes Nora as Tobias's daughter, and introduces himself as Sinding, the person her father was talking about. He tells her he will show her one of Norway's secrets and takes her to the royal family's basement. There, he shows her a massive graveyard filled with the remains of giant creatures from the ogre family. He explains that this was once the kingdom of one of the ogre kings. When the Norwegians wiped them out, they built the Norwegian royal palace over their kingdom. At that moment, Nora realizes that the ogre is searching for this graveyard to reunite with his family, which explains the sadness in his voice. He feels lonely and is looking for his kin. She decides to help the ogre find the graveyard instead of killing him or finding another way to eliminate him. Sinding tells her that her father was right to believe in the existence of ogres because he had seen this graveyard before. However, the government had to hide the truth to protect its reputation, which led them to imprison and torture Tobias to keep him silent. Nora feels deeply saddened and sympathetic toward her father, who faced immense challenges in his life. Now that he's gone, she can't even apologize for distancing herself from him. She resolves to make him proud. Nora notices that the skulls emit light when exposed to sunlight. She remembers her father telling her as a child that ogres burn in sunlight. This gives her an idea to defeat the ogre. She calls Chris to ask for his help with the mission, and he agrees. Nora takes one of the skulls from the graveyard to lure the ogre. She intercepts the ogre, and at the same time, Bart decides to launch a nuclear attack against the ogre to eliminate him permanently. However, Sigrid hacks their system to delay the strike and help Nora. The ogre sees the skull and chases after it. Nora keeps driving with the ogre following her. Eventually, the rope tying the skull breaks, and it falls to the ground. The ogre picks it up and realizes it's the skull of one of his relatives. He's deeply moved and visibly saddened, as he is the only ogre who turned into a mountain while the rest of his family died. But the skull falls to the ground and breaks, so he screams a very high, sad scream. And he gets angry because the skull was broken and he decides to attack Nora. So he runs after her car and destroys the road behind her while throwing other cars at her to stop her, until he reaches the place of Chris, and Nora says to Andreas to jump out of the car quickly. It is her turn to jump too, and she succeeds in jumping before the troll reaches her, but he sees her and decides to step on her to kill her. Suddenly, the lights of the cars he has assembled turn on, and this is Nora's plan to burn the troll with lights. When they turn on all the lights, they actually succeed in hurting him, but they don't kill him. At that time, the Minister of the Interior, the one called Farid, discovers that Sigrid is the one who disabled the missiles, so he decides that he will imprison her until they finish the operation. He asks the soldiers to launch a nuclear attack on the troll, but Farid hits him in the face because his his style is provocative, and all he cares about is killing the troll by any means. And at this time, Nora finds it difficult to see the troll and thinks that he is a good being and that he tried to save more than one person, so she keeps saying that she will not kill him. So she turns off all the lights that were on and tells the troll to leave them and go back to the mountain, and they will not harm him. She tells him that he was kind and lonely, but if he kept walking around in human cities like this, they would kill him, so he must return to the mountain again, and then they won't do anything to him. So it becomes clear to the troll here that he understands her words and decides to return to the mountain again. But at that time, it is too late because the morning has come and the sun rises and burns the troll because of its light, and the troll turns again a rock. But this time he will remain a rock because he was burned and died, and he will not be able to come back to life again. And we see Nora as he turns into a rock. And it is difficult for her because he was a good being and he did not intend to harm anyone. And thus they get rid of the troll forever, and Nora finally succeeds in her mission. And because of her contribution to saving Norway, the government decides that they name a rock after her father. And she decides at that time that she will return to her normal life and go out on her missions with her team. Unlike Andreas, who will start a new life away from politics completely, and he will start writing his own stories just like he used to when he was young, and life will finally return to its former glory in Norway after everything that happened, and the movie will end. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.